Welcome back to Algebra 1. We're doing Chapter 4, Section 7, solving linear equations using graphs. Okay, so a couple of complex ideas here, but this is a very handy thing for, especially when you get on to college algebra and stuff, knowing tricks to use your calculator to help check your work. It's not really cheating, they let you do it, so listen up and I'll give you some hints on doing that. Alright, so here's an equation, but notice it doesn't have a y, it's just an x. So this is one like what we did a while ago, where you just solve for x by asking why is x not alone. And the reason why x is not alone is because it's got a 2 and a negative 5, and we work from what's further away to what's closer by doing the opposite. So what's the opposite of minus 5 plus 5? What I do to one side, I do to the other. I bring down what I don't mess with, so that's my 2x and my equals, and 5 plus 1 is 6. And I ask myself again, why is x not alone? Because it's got a 2 sitting next to it, which means multiply. What's the opposite of multiply? Divide. What I do to one side, I do to the other. These cancel out, and x equals 6 divided by 2, so x equals 3. Ta-da! There's the answer to the problem. Now, how could we check it using our graph? That's our question. So I'm going to, just remember x equals 3. I'm going to get rid of this. It's sort of in the way. Goodbye, stuff. Okay, so we solved it, and we got x equals 3. Now, this might blow your mind, but it's a weird thing that as you learn more about math, it'll make more sense. But in math, y, 0, and this thing that's called f of x are all kind of the same thing. What? It'll make more sense later, I promise. Okay, so y can be 0 or f of x. Remember I told you, for your calculator to graph things, it has to use that button right there that says y equals. This doesn't have a y equals, but we can make it if we got 0 by itself on one side. Because 0, y, and f of x are weirdly sort of the same thing. So, I want 0 over here, but there's a 1, but I can move things by doing the opposite. What's the opposite of that 1? Well, it's a positive 1. So the opposite is minus 1. Well, as long as I do to one side, I do to the other, I can do anything I want. And that's what I want to do, because I want that to go away and it be 0. So now I have 2x, negative 5 minus 1 is negative 6 equals 0. But 0 is the same thing as y. Now your calculator is going to want it that way, so I'm going to move the y to the other side. And now I have the equation written as y equals. You actually can also have this thing, and that's also, you're going to learn more about that next video. Alright. So now it's like this, and we can put this in our calculator and make our calculator graph it for us. So turn it on down here, go to the button up here that says y equals and push it. If there's any stuff in there, because someone else has already put something in there, go to delete or clear and get rid of it. I hit clear and got rid of it. Okay, and now we're going to type in 2x plus 6. So first put in a 2. The X button is this one right where my finger is. It has XT, circle with a line through it, that's theta, or N. So push that button that's XT0 in. And notice it pops an X up there. Then put minus 6. And remember, minus goes in the middle and it's over here. Negative is at the beginning and it's down here. So use this one and say minus 6. Okay? Now you might have a weird setting in your calculator for the window, so I want to fix that first. There's a button right there that says zoom, which I think is kind of funny because back in the 70s there was a show. Zoom, 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 zoom. It makes me want to sing the song. Alright, so push zoom, but you don't have to sing. And there's one, number 6, that says standard. You can either push number 6 or arrow down to it using these arrows and hit enter. And then it's going to graph your line. And it should look a little blue line going across like mine. Yours might be black and white. That's okay. But if you notice very carefully on your graph, the line is crossing the x-axis at this third little line. We've got a thing, and on point number 3, we have a line going through that looks like that. So x is 3. Do you see? We were able to check it. X equals 3. Now, eyeballing it, you could be wrong, but just to make sure, do you see the button that says trace? It's not talking about tracing a drawing, or someone named Tracy. It's just a button called trace. Push trace, and on the bottom it should say x equals 0, y equals -6. I want you instead to say that x equals 3. So just push 3, enter, and it should say y equals 0. And that means that this answer is right, that x equals 3. That when x is 3, y is 0, and that's the answer to our equation. Do you see how this might be useful? Let's do another one. Okay, here's one. First, let's solve it for x by doing the opposite. But remember our equation here because it's to 0. So I'm going to do plus 4, 2x equals 4, divide by 2, x equals 2. Okay, now let's put this in our calculator. It's at 0, so that's the same as y equals. So let's go back to y equals, clear out what's in there, and let's put 2x minus 4. And this time we can just hit graph. We don't have to hit trace. Graph is all the way at the end. Hit graph. Here comes our line, and it should cross the x-axis at 2. Let's make sure, put trace, put 2, enter, and y equals 0. Okay? I'll do another video that's closer up of this too. Uh-oh, I messed this up. I think that was the problem. Alright, so let's do this one. We gotta get this to be 0. It's not. So let's do minus 3 to both sides. Those mark out. I'm getting it that way. I need to solve it first, but I'll go back and do it. 7x minus 6 is what y equals. Now let's go back. That's what's going to go in our calculator. Let's solve for x. Why is x not alone? It's got a minus 3. We need to do a plus 3. So we have 7x equals 6 divided by 7. I might have changed that problem because x is 6/7. That's really ugly. Let's see if I changed the problem. I copied off the board and then I smeared it. Oh, that's all they wanted you to do. All they wanted you to do for it, we don't actually have to do this on our calculator. All they wanted us to do for that one was to rewrite it like that. So we did that. Okay, let's do this one. First, we will solve for x. So why is x not alone? It's got a plus 3 and a 5. We do the 3 first. Minus 3 minus 3. 5x, those mark out, equals -5 divided by 5 divided by 5. X equals -1. Now let's redo it here and make it 0. So I'm going to take that off. Plus 2 to make it 0. So I have 5x plus 5 is equal to my y, but I'm going to now put it in my calculator. So I'm going to go to y equals, clear out what's in there, and put 5x plus 5. I'm going to hit graph and see if it crosses at -1. Ta-da! It did. Just to make sure, I'm going to go trace, -1, enter, and y equals 0. So I solved for x, and then I checked it using my calculator in a graph. All right? I think you'll eventually think that's fun. Math is fun.